was, I'm just going to put it over here. And that's one reason why the American colonists were so kind of ticked off at the British, is the fact that for years they let them alone. They'd been able to run their own countries, do whatever they wanted to do, set up their own tax system, their own money, coin their own money, and that was all under this policy of salutary neglect. Then, all of a sudden, due to the expense of the French Indian War / 7 Years' War, exact same thing, you have the British needing income, so they see the Americas as this huge resource with which they can tax. Also, the British need taxes because they're starting our Industrial Revolution. Remember, in Great Britain. And remember, what are the industries that first started the Industrial Revolution? What was the first one? Ag, and then what was the second one? Textiles. Very good. So one is ag, 2 was textiles, then it moves into other things. You also have in Great Britain those enclosure acts, kind of between these two. Oh, I can't spell. Where that kind of helped to force the British farmers who had been able to use these common lands. Remember, everybody kind of had access. If you remember your little village, you could basically farm or herd your sheep on any piece of land. Now all of a sudden they're enclosing that land, and you have to pay for that access. Well, unless you're very wealthy, you don't have enough money to pay for it. So that's the problem. All right, the Industrial Revolution leads to a lot of inventions. During this time period, things like the flying shuttle, which had nothing to do with space. All right, you've got the flying shuttle, the spinning jenny. What are some other ones? The cotton gin. That was actually over here in the Americas. Thanks to Eli Lilly.
What year did he make it?
I don't know. 1700s. No, we made it. Let's see. Light bulbs.
Was that in American medicine?
That's a good question. Maybe. I think it was.
Indeed it was. Yeah.
Let's put that over here. This one.
Don't give the British
Credit for everything.
Yeah.
The problem is, I don't know.
All of what's going on. Oh, yeah, they did like some political stuff.
All right, light bulbs. Let's see. We have the railroad. Telegraphs. All right. You also, with the Industrial Revolution, you need to remember the social issues. Specifically, the roles of women. Another thing in Western Europe, 1776, okay, is Adam Smith and his book, The Wealth of Nations, which is talking about capitalism. You also have 1776 in the Americas, the American Revolution, everything that went along with that. Let's see, 1789, we have the French Revolution. Remember, remember you've got your 3 estates of French society. You have the French Declaration of the Rights of Man. You've also got the Reign of Terror. And Robespierre. Now moving over, okay, into Eastern Europe. All right, during this time period, we still have Romanov rule in Russia.
Ms. Rodish,
Yeah, honey.
are we gonna need to know any of the other people who were working along with Robespierre?
No,
Okay.
like the Girondins and, like definitely, like they talk about the sans-culottes, which are the people without breeches or, without the knee breeches or whatever. Definitely, the French Revolution is a big one. So if you want to go back into Spodek and look at it, it wouldn't be a bad thing.
All that kind of stuff.
Mhm. Yeah, the storming of the Bastille, those main events. Yeah.
The March of Versailles.
Yeah, the March to Versailles, where they end up kidnapping Louis and Marie, forcing him into the Tuileries Palace. That kind of stuff. Yep. All right. So during this time period, all right, this is the time period of. Let's see, when is Peter the Great? I forget.
1774.
Is it really?
Who's made for days?
Oh. Like, wow, that's impressive. I can't remember.
Like, do you want me to look it up?
I don't remember. I can't remember, but Peter the Great's somewhere in here. Yeah, let's look up the dates of him. I don't have it written down. Peter the Great, and then Catherine is down here. Okay, remember she would be our enlightened despot. I can remember most things, but there are a few that I forget. I can at least put them in order.
Why aren't you guys looking in your yellow cards?
I don't know if it did anything like.
St. Petersburg, Westernization. You have continuing serfs.
Peter the Great died in 1725.
Oh, did he? Okay.
And then Catherine, okay, Alexander the First took over in 1801, and Catherine was kind of like,
Catherine's like early 1800s, if I remember right.
well, it's just like, the notes I have.
I'm ready, my brain.
Yeah.
I'm probably half out.
All right.
I
So,
don't think either of them are like, Catherine probably is.
yeah, I know Catherine's like in the beginning 1800s. All right, in the Middle East, okay, we have Ottoman decline. Ottoman.
Why did they
Oh. South Asia during this time period, this is where we have the British East India Company. You need to remember it's a joint stock company, if you remember what those are. Alright? And what you've got is you've got the British East India Company coming in. They take control away from the Dutch and the Mughal princes. And what they did was they started to make individual agreements with each prince as they would move through the subcontinent. And as they did this, they would pit Mughals against each other, okay, and ultimately start to take over. And really, they start off as a joint stock company, but the British East India Company at a certain point in time literally starts acting almost like a country in and of itself, making laws, decisions,